Here I am. We are live and I accidentally set this up wrong this morning. It's always a thing. One of these times I'm going to get it right. I hope you guys are having a good weekend. I am having a good weekend. I got my office 85% clean yesterday. So there was so much stuff all over the place from all of the projects that I've been working on. I'll do an unboxing and I throw stuff aside and I grab something. Hi, Rose. It's good to see you. Did you guys all scroll through the description box on the video? Because there's a list of supplies, and there's also a link to our Facebook group where you can download the cut file that I'm going to use today for free. Actually, there's two of them. I don't know if I'm going to use both, but definitely using one of them. I can see the lights reflecting in my glasses. Okay, so if you haven't downloaded the cut file, and if you don't want to play along, that's totally fine. You can just watch and it will be saved for replay and you can follow along later. But in the description box, there's a list of all the things. And you can use whatever products you have on hand. I'm using our March kits, but you can use whatever you've got. So, yeah. How many of you are going to scrap along with me? I'm trying to see the comments. Let me see here. Do we have some comments? Well, it's coffee time for me. Hi, Melissa. You're scrapping along. Oh, good. I'm excited. Thanks for joining. I look forward to this so much every week. You know, the funny thing is that I always get caught up in like all of the other stuff that I have to do in terms of our product design and all that stuff that I rarely have a chance to sit down and scrap. So for me to be able to take time to do this every Sunday is such a welcome distraction from everything else. So, plus I get to hang out with you guys, which is a lot of fun. So how many of you are using our March kits? And how many of you downloaded the cut files that I shared on our Facebook group? If you haven't joined our Facebook group, you'll want to do it because we have all kinds of fun things in there. But this is the cut file that I'm using today, and it's some little clouds. And initially I thought maybe I'd use it on the top and the bottom of my page, but I think I'm just going to use it on the bottom. The other cut file I duplicated it more than once, but it's a bunch of clouds. I'm not sure if I'm going to use these or if I use a few of them. The other thing too is that you can hang on to your cardstock that you cut those out of, and you can use them as a stencil, or use the negative space as a stencil and do ink blending, and you can create your own clouds with that. So, and it's a pretty simple shape. So if you, hi Kim, aw, I'm so glad you're here. Oh no, you have the brother. I have zero experience with that one. I have experience with both the Cricut and the Silhouette. And I have better luck with my Cricut than I do with my Silhouette. Only because I have to like mess with my Silhouette so much. You're here every Sunday. I'm glad you're just hanging out in the wings. So our graphic designer Kim Watson is here with us today. So be sure to share some love with her for all of the hard work that she does on our collections. She does such a beautiful job. Oh, I have to grab my photos. Hang on one second. And I have to shut my window. A fire truck just went up the street. How crazy is that? When we first moved into our house was brand new. And the kids were little, and I was like terrified that something was going to go wrong. And that maybe the furnace wasn't hooked up right or whatever, because it was new furnace and all of that. So I got the day or a couple days after we moved in, I ran out and got a carbon monoxide detector, and I'm trying to figure out how to make it work, and I'm plugging it in, and I'm really close to it, and it just keeps going off. It's like the alarm's going off over and over and again, and I'm sitting there going, I was right. Something was going to happen. I knew it. And so I called the fire department to have them come and check, because I was convinced that something was wrong. And so they come over, and we had just moved to Washington, so we didn't know any of the other people in our community. We were, brand spanking new here. So one of the firefighters that came in was one of the dads that was on my oldest daughter's soccer team. And so we didn't know them well or whatever. So anyway, they all come in, and, we've got this big fire truck in front of our house, and the neighbors that had moved in on our street, because we were all new construction, were kind of looking out their windows going, oh my gosh, fire truck, whatever. Because, no, you always get, more in tune when you see a fire truck with what's happening in your neighborhood when a fire truck goes by, So anyway, they come in, and they grab, I'm like, they're taking their like monitor thing around the house and out to the furnace and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, and they're like, you know what, it's completely fine. And I'm like, I don't know why this thing keeps going off. Maybe it's defective. And the guy looks at me and he's like, were you really close up to it? And breathing on it heavily while you were installing it. And then, when you're trying to figure out what was wrong with it, were you like in its face? And sure enough, I was, and it was the carbon dioxide that I was breathing out because I was probably hyperventilating, and the detector just kept going off over and over again. So, yeah, so that was me and the fire trucks. Okay, so I'm moving this over so I can see it better because I'm a little bit not blind necessarily, but I don't see. Okay, yay. All right, I can see you all better. Or I can see the chat better. Yeah, so that's my story for the day. I'll have one every week, I promise you, because something always is going on around here. You'll probably hear some noise in a bit when my family comes home because my daughter's been in Europe for 2 weeks and she just flew in this morning. So, and they'll come in with a ruckus. So I'll give you a little warning before that happens. But okay, so shall I flip the camera? Who's ready? Everybody ready? Now I'm hoping when I flip the camera, we don't have any technical difficulties. My daughter still laughs because she was here the day I did my first live, and my camera fell off the bracket, and I was having to screw it back in. And when I rewatched that video and the camera is spinning around and I'm yelling, "Close your eyes, people," because I know I'm giving you all motion sickness. Yeah, that's a big joke in my family too. So gotta laugh at all the random things that happen. So, okay. So I am going to flip my camera and we're going to get started. Okay, so hang on one second and I'm going to try not to have you look at the palm of my hand. Okay, so let's see. I think I gotta look. See if I'm the right direction. Ha! How about that? Now I just have to tighten this and we're gonna be good to go. And I'm even like smack dab in the center. How about that? Okay. So I have a couple of photos and I haven't decided which one I'm gonna use, but yeah. So can everybody hear me and see me or see my desk and all that kind of stuff? I wonder if Okay. So all right. So let's get started. So I've got this cut file, and I think I'm gonna back it, but I'm going. So the one thing that I will mention, Cricut only lets you cut out 11.5 by 11.5. So you always have, if you're cutting a background, you always have to cut it down. So At the moment, my white cardstock is 11.5 by 11.5, and I'm going to add a border probably at the end. But the one thing, let's talk about the cut file for a second, because there are a lot of different ways that you can back your cut file. And a few weeks ago, we did a live, and I made, where is it? Of course, I put it back and I'm not going to be able to find it. Hang on, let's see. So I made a background on a sheet of pattern paper, and I swear, where did I put it? Okay, oh, here it is. Okay, so how many of you end up with mixed media backgrounds that either you don't like or you don't use, and you just set them aside, and or you don't throw them away, hang on to them, because you can always use them for something else. So like, for instance, I'm not going to use this today, but I just wanted to give you kind of an idea. If you have mixed media backgrounds lying around, you can use them when you have cut files. I mean, obviously, you could layer this cut file over the top of this, but at the same time, you could back your cut file with it. So like, for instance, this has like, it's kind of an ombre, and it's got pink, and it goes to like yellow and red. So if you maybe started here and backed this section with some pink, and then used another, maybe these with, moved this a little bit and used these with some pink, and then added in the orange in the center, and then you can move orange to yellow. So you can kind of come down and like, you can get a lot of fill with this little space of mixed media that you have here, without having an entire background filled with it, you know, by just kind of moving and cutting the pieces out. And like, I wouldn't even cut these individually in a situation like this. I would just cut like an area of them. So I would cut kind of along this line here, and then I would, you know, get some more pink, and I would cut along this line, and then I would move over and start doing the orange over here, and then maybe do like an orange to yellow, and then do the yellow over on this side. So you can kind of create that color blend as you move across. You can also do it this way, you know, if you wanted to go across this way. So that's another option. But, you know, if you've got like bits and pieces of backgrounds or mixed media laying around, you can easily use them to back your cut files. I mean, I've got a bunch of stuff just sitting around, and because I said I was going to use, and look how cute that is. This was created using the stamp set that we had in our March kits. And I cannot figure out for the life of me why this didn't want to come out. And here's another one. So look how cute that would be. And if it was larger, I would totally do that. Look how cute. Anyway, so if you have mixed media backgrounds laying around and you haven't used them, and you have a cut file and you're doing a layout and you're, you know, unsure as to what you want to back it with, think about pulling out some of your mixed media backgrounds and giving it a try. Okay, so here's our cut file, and I've got white cardstock here. And so my idea is that I am going to adhere this to the background. I'm going to back this with some pattern paper. I also used this is the tag pattern paper, and I don't have the name of, I don't think I have the name of it sitting around where I can see it. Maybe I do. Hang on. Nope, I don't. I can't remember. I'll list the paper name in the description box. I'll update that a little later after we're done. But I just wanted to use this side because I'm going to do some ink blending on the back of my, on the cardstock behind this to kind of just give a little glow behind it. So, which is why I decided that I was going to use a lighter color. Now, I'm going to show you how I did this, but I don't have another full sheet of this paper. So I'm just going to show you using a different, I'm just going to use a sheet of solid cardstock. Let me find one here somewhere in my, okay, let's just do this one. This one. Okay. So let me trim off my, okay. So if you guys have any questions as we go through this, yeah, let's just be sure to let me know. And I will keep I've just been on, we're just getting started, Donna. We're just getting started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this down to 11.5 by 11.5. Okay, and I have my final review on the Sizzix trimmer score, whatever it is. I hate it. And I was going to return it. My return window from Amazon has now expired. Now, either I've got a defective cutter, which could be the case, because I ordered new blades and I was still having the same exact problem. And so anyway, yeah. So it's terrible. It will not cut when I bring the blade down this way, and the little channel that guides the blade as you cut, it fills up with like with paper pulp, and then it just gets stuck. So yeah, so I don't like it at all. Okay, so what I did here is I measured, started here at 3 inches on either side. Oops. Okay, and I want to just draw a very light horizontal line across your paper, because the cut file is about 3 inches high, so we don't want the cut file here, so we're gonna trim that off. Then I am going to take and go mark the center here, which is 6 inches, And then I'm gonna make a little tick, a 1/2 inch on either side of that tick. So we've got 6 inches in the center, and then 5.5 and 6.5. And so because I want to keep this kind of hooked into a solid piece, I don't want to cut all the way to the center line. So I'm gonna kind of draw a little half circle here. So it gives me an idea of how far in I want to come when I start cutting my lines. And so with this, I'm going to mark every 3 inches as we go up the paper. So I'm marking at 3 inches, at 6 inches, and at 9 inches. Is that right? Yes. 3, 6, 9. No, that's not right. 3, 6. Okay, no, actually, we're gonna mark at 4.5, and then we're gonna do 4.5, 6. Let's see, you know what? Let's look at this because I can't remember now what I did. This is 3. Okay, so I thought I made a mental note, and we should all know that, yeah. Okay, so 7.5 and 10.5. And then this one has 1.5, and then 4.5, 7.5, and 10.5. Okay. All right. So let me clarify that. So you're going to mark on the sides. You're going to mark at 4.5 inches. You're going to mark at 7.5 inches. And then you're going to mark at 10.5 inches. And then at the top, you're going to come across and you're going to mark at 1.5 inches, 4.5 inches, 7.5 inches, 10.5 inches here. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So this side, we're at 4.5, 7.5, and 10.5. Okay. So then what we're going to do is we're going to draw our lines, and we're going to line up from this center point here. So this is six inches. This is the center of that line. So, and you want your lines to be light. So you just line up with your little tick mark and then line up with the center point. And then I'm only bringing my line into that little half circle. You don't have to bring it all the way into the center. And that'll help you know how far you're going to cut. So here's another one. And never mind the lines, the tick marks on this side of my paper, because that's when I made my mistake. So you're gonna bring this down. And I have just like a white pencil eraser which works great for removing pencil. If you use a pencil eraser that's on the end of your pencil, I always find that it smears the pencil rather than removes it. But if you use like one of the white erasers that you get, like, you can get them from the office supply store, you can get them from Amazon, you can get them from, I think that they might be like art erasers, to be honest, or like maybe from like the draft, you know, for drafters or something like that. But it works really well. Okay. And for those of you that hate working with like a craft knife, the reason that you hate it is likely because you're putting too much pressure when you cut. So you want to make sure you've got a sharp blade. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to follow our lines. The other thing too is, before I do this, I'm going to lighten them slightly with my eraser. See how this just, I mean, it takes like zero pressure and but it doesn't smear. And afterwards we'll, you know, erase them all the way, and you might decide that you like using like a solid cardstock background for this. It's really up to you on what your preference is. So I like this little craft knife. It's by Fiskars, but the nice thing is that you hold it like a pencil, and it allows you to put pressure on it rather than kind of wrapping your hand around it like you would hold a pencil, but rather than coming around and like trying to hold it, and generally you end up kind of cockeyed, whereas this allows you to put pressure from directly on top of the blade. So I think it works really well. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut into that half circle here. And the key is, don't put a lot of pressure when you do this. Hold your ruler steady, and you can go over it multiple times until it cuts all the way through. And then you're not like giving yourself a white, you know, like a white knuckle or white fingertips. You know, if you put too much pressure, remember as a kid, you know, as you're in grade school and you're, you know, writing, you're putting so much thought just in trying to form your letters that you end up, you know, your fingers get sore. So with this, all you have to do is just make sure that you hold your ruler steady, and then you just kind of slide your blade over your paper. But if you do it multiple times, and ideally if you have a metal edge ruler, that's probably better, because I think sometimes I kind of mess up the edge of my ruler. I see like little plastic shavings, but it's all right. Okay. And then you know, before you move it, you can just make sure that, see how this one didn't get cut all the way. But that's what scissors are for. Okay. So we're going to do the next one. And they don't have to be absolutely perfectly spaced at all. It just, you want them close, you know, to, that way it gives kind of a uniformed And then if you lift this up, you'll know if you have any places that are stuck. But you just want it to have kind of a symmetrical look to it, which is why I measured these. Otherwise, you could just randomly cut them, and that's totally an option as well. Okay, that one's all done. This one's done. So my daughter lives up in Bellingham, and which is about an hour and a half away from us. But she's got this like shy little kitty, and she just recently moved into her own place, and her cat is in dire need of a playmate. So while my other daughter was in Europe, she borrowed her cat, well, one of her cats, and took her up there so that he could have a playmate. So he could have a playmate. And so anyway, which was great. And he was like so happy. But now that Mackenzie's coming home, she's having to return the cat. And the cat's name is Cutesy. And I think I cut some of these in really far, but that's okay. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to flip this over, and I want to number the backs starting from this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Okay. So I know when I actually end up cutting these apart, if I want to lay these back in here, I can do it. Now, I want to remove the pencil lines. And so the easiest way to go about that is to just take your eraser and go towards the edge of your paper one direction, and then you won't bend your paper or accidentally tear it or whatever. So if you just go this one direction, okay. Now, depending on what your preference is in terms of whether you like your edges distressed, on these, you could use your scissors and distress the edges if you wanted to. I'm just going to get all this. Okay, so now I'm going to lay this back down, and I'm going to cut starting with the first piece. My photo is going to be in this general vicinity, so it's going to cover. So I want to cut this one, leave this one, cut this one, leave this one, cut this one, leave this one, cut this one, leave that one, cut this one, leave the next one, and cut this one. And then you can go across here and just cut off this base piece. I mean, you could have left it there if you, oh, see, gotta be careful. You could have left it there if you wanted to use the this color to back your cut file, but I wanted something that would contrast. So anyway, so that is how you make your sunbursts. Does anybody have any questions about that? It's very hard to find a good trimmer. In fact, one second, let me see if there's a way to. Oh, there we go. That's what I wanted to do. That way I can see. A gum eraser will totally work. Donna, what was I saying? Yeah, trimmers are difficult, and I have issues with them all. The only one that I really like is my guillotine trimmer, and it's from Tonic, and I've had it. It's self-sharpening, so you never have to replace the blades, and it just lasts forever. So, and it cuts straight every single time. Okay, so this is what we end up with, and I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to get yourself situated with that. And I need to find my background, which is here. Okay. Try and put this. Okay. You went downstairs to get the X-Acto knife sharpened by your landlord. Wow. What a nice landlord. I often think that maybe a box cutter might be better for cutting straight lines than an X-Acto knife. X-Acto knives work really well for you know, like fussy cutting around shapes. But I think that a box cutter for straight lines, and in fact, we had a design team member at one point that used scalpels to cut her stuff, and she swore by them, but I have no idea where you buy a scalpel, to be honest. And, oh, this is kind of a funny story. So my daughter went to Europe, right? And the first place that she went was Amsterdam. And when she got there, she was so jet lagged and she couldn't sleep. And she didn't take anything with her. And so I said, just go to the pharmacy and get some NyQuil or some Tylenol PM or something like that so you can sleep. And in Amsterdam, all of that is prescription. You can't get anything that has an antihistamine in it that makes you drowsy over the counter. At least according to her. Okay, so next what we're gonna do is I wanna create like a little haze on my background. There's a couple of ways that we can go about that. My cardstock has no gesso on it, so I don't really want to start with like mist or watercolor, although you could just use the packaging technique and add your mixed media to your background. But for this, because I don't want to mess with having it just sink into my paper so quickly. I think I'm gonna ink blend it. And I just have but you can ink blend using a variety of different things. So like for instance, this is a Catherine Pooler ink. This is called Chiffon. And I might add just a tiny bit of water to it just to allow it on my brush. And I am going to just softly start from the center, and I'm going to pick up the ink with my brush and start blending it. And you'll see it, and it's gonna be like a yellow haze. But you can build on that color. And what I want to do is I want the color to kind of be stronger and bolder in the center, and then soften up as we move to the outside of my page. Should have probably used like a full-size ink pad now that I'm thinking about it, but that's all right. So anyway, Mackenzie ended up not being able to find anything to help with her sleep. She found something, and everything, none of the stuff was in English. So she's like, I'm afraid to get anything because I don't know what it is. And I'm like, well, why don't you just talk to the pharmacist? And I don't know, these kids these days, they're like, oh, talk to people. We just text or send emails. Talking to people is scary. Actually, she's not that bad. She's actually pretty good at it. But I think that she just was unsure as to what to do in this scenario. And I just assume, you assume that everything's the same in every country. But yeah, they're a lot more cautious in Amsterdam, which was surprising to me because I just assumed that they were more liberal in terms of medications. And you hear about the red light district in Amsterdam, and I don't know. I assumed it was different. Now, because we cut out that very bottom section here, we want to make sure that we come down low enough with our ink blending, or regardless of what you're doing, if you're doing, paint or watercolor or stencil work or whatever, you want to make sure that you're bringing this ink down far enough and that you've got this bold center. I might get a yellow that has a little more pigment to it, actually. But let me mess with this for another minute. Does anybody have any questions about this? These little brushes I got on Amazon, and it was a set of 6 or 8. And I think that they were like $12. And they work great. And the nice thing is that I like them better than like the foam blending tools. I feel like after you rub using the foam on your paper if you know, rub with it too long. It just ends up kind of eating up the surface of your paper. And that probably depends a lot on what you're using. What type of paper you're using. So if you're using like a piece of printed paper, that just doesn't have quite the, it's not quite as strong as a cardstock would be. Okay, so this one was called Chiffon. These are Catherine Pooler inks. This one is called Limoncello or Limoncello. And this has a little more pigment to it. So I'm gonna bring this in at the center here. And I'm gonna move this color outward. But the key with this is just to, you know, have this soft graduation of color that goes towards the outside of your paper. Add a little more down here towards the bottom here because I want enough color right here against where my cut file is going to butt up against the solid paper. And if you wanted to with this and you wanted to use your cut file as a stencil, you could easily do that. I would probably cut it out a few times and layer them together using like liquid glue, and that would make it sturdy enough so you could use it as a stencil if you wanted to, and then just ink blend your clouds. Okay, and then I'm just going to add this brighter yellow in the very center. And if I ruin this, I'm gonna be mad. Okay, I'm just gonna bring it in really, really soft because if this is gonna turn like orange, I don't want that. But you see how, you know, we've got this concentration of color here, but it's softly blending out towards the outer side or the outer edges of our cardstock. So when we put this back over the top here, you see how that looks? And then we'll have this down here. I love that. Who loves that? I love that. I think it's so cute. Okay. I'm getting Bob. He got brownie points. Okay, so I think that this is about what I want. Gosh, I need to speed up here. I end up going so late with this stuff. But, okay. So these little brushes, they just fit in these little holders, and you get one in like every single color. So you get green and purple and the whole rainbow. So if I were to use this with an ink pad or something that, if I was like gonna dip it directly in an ink pad, I would just use it on a piece of scratch paper or a paper towel just to get the excess ink that's on here off of it, so that I don't contaminate my paper. Now I just need to grab a paper towel to clean off my desk. Actually, Clorox wipe. They work great. Okay. And you want to make sure you dry this up so that your paper doesn't buckle. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is okay. So let's start backing. I'm going to set this aside and let's start backing our cut file. Sit down in my chair. Set this aside. I have some papers that I kind of pulled together. I'm going to kind of do a monochromatic selection for my cards, or for my clouds. I thought about going bright, but yeah, I think I'm just gonna stick with just a few different colors of, you know, I'm gonna set this aside too, because with my luck, I'll probably end up cutting something that I don't want to cut. Okay, these go here, here, and here. All right, so what I'm gonna do is, I'm thinking, not sure if I want to just be random. I'm thinking I'm just gonna do a random configuration here. You can do the stripes however you want, but I think if you do them vertically, you're going to get more stripe in your, or you could do it even if you wanted to do it diagonally. I might do that actually. Okay. So let's start with, just take your pencil and I'm going to just lightly trace around the edge. Doesn't have to be perfect, but needs to be more perfect than that, because you got to be able to see it. Okay. Just thinking that. All right, if we get pencil on the edge of this cut file, we can just erase it. Okay, so then when you cut this out, you just kind of want to bubble cut it because you have just a little less than 1/4 of an inch behind of a border between the edge of the cut file and the opening of the next space. So you don't have to like cut these perfectly, and you'll see if there's areas where you need to trim. Yeah, so I'm gonna just cut it like that. And then you'll just take and see, and then I wanna take my eraser and just kind of remove the pencil line. And you could do it on the opposite side, but the thing is, like, I wanna see what's ending up in the opening of my cut file. So, let's see how that fits. Now I'm just gonna take my liquid glue and I'm gonna put some liquid glue right around the edge here. Not a ton. I'm just gonna add some little dots. I don't wanna even do a whole outline. Okay. And now I just need to slide this into place. And we have our first one. Now, if I thought about this ahead of time, I probably would have had us all back this cut file ahead of time, because this is the time-consuming part. But that's all right. We'll make do. Okay, so, and I just want to have like a variety of different actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of choose the pieces that I'm gonna cut with each color, and then I'll cut them all. I think that that'll be faster. Maybe okay, so there's that one. So I have 3 there, and I'll cut all these out. And if you have scraps of paper, this is a great way to use them. And as you get these filled, then when you back the clouds that are next to the ones that have already been filled, you don't have to really trim them out so closely. You can just overlap on the back. But the first few, you have to be careful so that you're not overlapping into the next cloud. How many of you are fans of fussy cutting? kind of like it. In fact, I think I kind of want to start doing more hand stitching on my pages because I find that kind of relaxing as well. I think the hardest part about hand stitching is choosing the colors of floss because I can't ever make a decision. Okay, this one I did really lightly, so it's harder to see. Okay, that's we're down here. If I got this one wrong, I may have to recut it, but I think. Okay. So these three we'll go ahead and glue down. The first one, I believe, is right here. And honestly, see the bottom of this, I probably didn't even need to trim out so much, but so there's the top, and then we'll do this one. You have no idea what a, take the pencil off of this one because it's darker. Oops. Did I drop it? I dropped it. I remember my husband and I went on vacation to Jamaica. My sister got married there, and so we spent a week there, which was amazing and beautiful, and there is nothing like swimming in bright blue water that's crystal clear and warm. But I am not a very adventuresome eater, and everything tasted weird. Hi, you. Welcome home. Yeah, we cat sit the cats while she was gone. But anyway, I'm not a super adventuresome eater, and everything tasted weird, or different, I guess is a better word. So like the ketchup was sweet, the like soft drinks didn't taste the same, even though they were the same thing. They just, the flavor was different. And like just food in general, like nothing was quite right. And you know how like sometimes if you just, I don't know, you just want like something that is reminiscent of, especially when you're as finicky as I am, you just want something that tastes like home. So when we flew home, we had a layover in Charlotte, and we literally got off the plane and we ran to a Chili's that was there in the airport as fast as we could. And like, you would have thought that we hadn't eaten in months, but we were just chowing on burgers and normal ketchup and fries and I don't know, just everything. Because it was, I don't know, we missed it. But one night we went out to dinner, and my mom's friend, who was incredibly cheap, and I say that, yeah, he was cheap. And none of us liked him very much. But anyway, he ended up, we show up at the restaurant, and the one thing that they have, the thing that they have that's on special is called the really big fish. And so that's what he orders, because it's cheap and it's gigantic. So they, you know, which is, so they tell us. And so he orders this fish, and the thing shows up at the table, and it looks like a sea monster. It's got, like, its eyeballs are still in it, and the eyeballs, it's got a million teeth, and it just looks like it's gonna jump off the plate and eat you. But not only that, so as he starts to cut into it, it is so full of bones that, yeah, it was practically inedible. I don't know why I went all the way to the center of that paper. But I want to have enough pattern in these. So, and ideally you would want the diagonal line to kind of be the same, but since they're not going to be next to one another, it's not a big deal. Okay, so here is an example why when you do this and you have a piece that's already been cut, you just need to cut the top. And everybody has a different way of doing this. But you don't have to go as close at the bottom part, because, except for right here, because it's already been covered. Okay, so I want to remove the pencil line here. So what colors are you guys doing? It's gonna take I agree. It is gonna take forever. And you know what? We might not finish this today. We might have to kind of come back to it next week, which is totally fine. Because I think that what I'm gonna do, or yeah, so we can come back to it next week, because I do think that it is going to take more time than I had anticipated to fill the cup file. Next time we do this, I'll have you guys fill your cup file ahead of time. And I will have filled my cup file ahead of time, and then you'll know what colors I'm using. And you can either use the same colors, or you can choose your own that are in the same color family if you want to do that. But like all of this, there's no like right or wrong way. Okay, so what are your thoughts about that, you guys? Is it okay? Are you okay with calling a pause on this and then resuming next week with this? So I have gotten glue all over this, but I think as long as I don't I just want to make sure I don't have anything attached to it. Okay, so there's that one. But yeah, I wasn't even thinking. Initially, I was like, oh, well, we'll just do it. You know what? That is not lined up right. Not sure if I turn this upside down or what I did, but I'm not quite lined up. Okay, nope, I'm still not lined up. Okay, now I am. And if you end up with glue somewhere where you don't want it, that's where you put an embellishment to cover it up. But you can also use an eraser to remove glue. Okay. And we'll fill one more. Yeah, you know what? You can easily put a single piece of paper. And in fact, if you have a piece of paper that is like, got like an ombre or has different texture. Let me look. I've got some other ones over here. Like for instance, this one, these two are from our January kits, and either of them would be perfect. So if you put it, you know, something over the top like this, you've got different colors in each little cloud. Or you could do something like this as a single piece of paper and then fill it that way. And then that way you've got a multitude of different colors in your cut file as well. So you've got a lot of different ways that you could, or if you just want it to be a single color, you could use like a really subtle pattern. And in fact, this would be really pretty because it's got just a very subtle yellow pattern. And so if you did this and you had the yellow kind of ink blending in the background, and then you could have used brighter like sun rays coming out of the back of your page. So you probably can't see the colors as well, but let me see if that shows up. So anyway, so that's an option. So I think, oh, I'm glad you like it, Elisa. I'm so glad you like it. So anyway, we will put a pause on this and we'll continue it next week. Continue adding your, backing your cut file. And then once you do that, you can also adhere your sunburst to your background. And if you want to add like any stitching or anything like that to your background, you can totally do that at this point. Now, I will say one other thing that I was thinking of when we numbered the backs of these. I was thinking that if you wanted to, you could, because we're not going all, you don't have to necessarily have it be lined up here exactly, but you could have your sunburst here and then this whole piece glued directly to your background, right? And it would be glued flat. And then you could add an addition, these pieces with foam adhesive, and that would create a little bit of a shadow here and here. So that's an option. Or you could, let's see, do I have my scoreboard? I don't, but, or you could score through the center of this and then fold it slightly and then either glue it or stitch along the center here, and then you can fold it up. Or when it's folded, you don't fold it up entirely, but just having that crease in the center is going to give a little lift. And that's what I might do here. So run a center, or run stitching down the center once it's folded. And then when you can lay it flat, obviously, and cut along the edge. So does that make sense to everybody? I think that that's what I'm going to do. So if we can work on getting our background done before next week, and then we'll work on the embellishments. So let's finish your background. If you want to add splatters or whatever, do that. You can do it before. In fact, I'll show you really quick with this ink, because I do want to do that. And like I've said each week, that the Catherine Pooler inks are great for splatters. You can do the splatters the way that you would normally do them, or you can grab a wet brush and splatter directly onto your ink with just plain water. And the ink is water reactive, and so what will happen is that the water kind of pulls some of the pigment up. And so when you see how you can see the yellow, right, through the paper towel, but do you see how it just pulls the pigment off? And so for a lot of people that like to do like white acrylic paint splatters with using this kind of ink, you kind of get that same impression, right? So I'm going to do a little bit on this side too, because oops. So now I've got some color variation when I start adding my stuff on top of it. It makes my background a little more interesting. Put a little bit up on the top. And this, because you're not adding very much liquid, your paper's not going to warp. But you don't realize that you have color up here until you start doing you're splattering. The other thing too is that you can take the ink, you can add a little bit of water to it with your paintbrush over here, and we'll add some colored splatters as well. And you'll just let those dry. You know what? I think I want a few on this side. There. Okay. And if you want a really big splatter, add a little more ink here. Now this is, we have those mixed media stamps that I used that we came out with in January, and they do kind of the same thing as this is. But, so this, you can hold it above and give yourself some larger drops. But if you are one of those people that likes to do this in a more controlled way, those stamps are great because there's some big droplets. All right, folks. So I'm gonna let this dry. We'll back our cut file, add any stitching you wanna do, and piece in that starburst or sunburst or whatever you wanna call it. And then we'll add our photo and do all the embellishing next week. Let's see. Donna, which one? The yellow brush. You get it at Amazon. I'll throw a link in the description box, and then you'll be able to find it. Let's see if did I miss anybody's questions? Okay. So I'll add a link to the little yellow brushes. And then we'll finish this next week. Will the center of the starburst? Yes, the center of the starburst, that's where we're gonna start layering with our photo, is right in the center of the page. So that's gonna be covered up. So if you add stitching, and we'll put foam underneath our photo. So like, for instance, if you have added dimension or stitching and have your paper, your additional pieces of your sunburst stitched and folded, we'll add some dimensional adhesive with our photo so we don't flatten everything down. And if you guys have any questions about any of this, just leave them in as a comment here, or you can leave them as a comment on our in our Facebook group. And that might be easier for everybody. Maybe. I don't know. I think, because we'll end up sharing all of our pages on our Facebook group when we're all done. So I think that if you can meet up with us there. If you haven't joined our Facebook group, be sure to do that. That's where you'll find the free cut file download. And there's also a thread there for our live today, and that's where we can end up sharing our finished projects, as well as any questions that you guys have regarding this particular project. I'll add links, and then we'll hook up again tomorrow. Also, too, if you watched this and you enjoyed it, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. By doing those things, it just allows more people to find us and enjoy what we're doing. And you can also share our videos and everything with your friends. And hopefully we can give them a little inspiration as well. And then also one other thing, you can leave a comment below if there's something particular that you'd like us to do in our lives. And, you know, we can plan accordingly for future lives to offer you guys the types of things that you want to learn. Oh, I'm so glad that you like them, Melissa. I completely enjoy them as well, and I look forward to them each week. And it's fun to see all the familiar faces coming back week after week. So I think it's fun. I think it's fun, fun, fun. All right, friends. So I will say goodbye for today, and I'll catch you next week. And yeah. So be sure to head over to our Facebook group and grab that cut file so that you can create this project. So until then, I will see you all next week. Thanks so much for joining. Have a good week. Bye. And then, of course, it's me trying to turn this off, which is impossible. Okay. You're going to have to look at me for a minute because I can't figure out how to turn this off. Hi. Okay, let's see.